All right. Hello, my speaker, coach, and entrepreneur friends. Today we are talking streamline, organize, and scaling your business. And I have Ron Finlay here. He is an engineer by trade, and he just celebrated 44 years
Yeah.
in his DJ business as a wedding DJ and for other events. And amazing. He has a successful business. It's been running for 44 years. He has a system that he has created to streamline, organize, and help any business to be successful and all the things. He's going to tell us more about it here in the interview, but let's welcome to the stage Ron Finlay.
Hi,
Thanks,
Michelle.
Ron.
How you doing? Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here and share this with your tribe of wonderful business owners all across the globe because you have such a huge reach. You're such a success in your own right. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So I met Ron at one of our network parties and he came on. He's like, I've got to share the system with you. It's so amazing. It's going to help your people so much. And whenever he started going into it, I was like, wow, this is good stuff. So before we get into the details of all that, though, I want to ask you, Ron, how did you throw a random question at you first? How did you, we just talked about your celebration for your 44 years. I want you to tell us a little bit about just your business journey and how you came up with this system before we
Okay.
kind of talk about everybody else's business.
Okay. So 44 years ago, December 5, just passed, I was a guest at a holiday party when I worked at IBM. So I'm also a ballroom dance teacher for 5 years at that point in my life. And this is a long time ago now. So I go to this party all ready to dance my butt off. And the DJ's got an empty floor. So I went up and I asked for a request for a song that was in a current movie soundtrack, the Pee Wee Herman movie, if those of you remember way back. But the song was written in 1957, not 1980. So anybody that knew it, they knew it for one or the other reason. So he has the record, he pops it out, he said, yeah, I got the record. And he never played it. He never played it all night. And the dance floor is empty. And I thought, dude, I'll get this party going because I'm a dance teacher, so I know how to dance. He never played it. So January 10, 1981, I went out and bought the biggest sound system I could get in my car. Actually, I bought the biggest sound system, then tried to figure out how to get it in my car. And am I ever glad I didn't buy a little car? So I started a DJ business purely by taking my dance background, my engineering degree in electronics and acoustics, and the fact that I thought I can do better than that. With no idea, no clue. So I practiced at home and I learned how to mix music and I figured some stuff out. I get to my first ever wedding, which was for a friend of mine. And I thought, oh, I wonder what they want to dance to because I had never thought about that part. I walked in and went, oh, never gave that any thought. So I asked the hotel for some paper. I ripped it in half, gave everybody half a sheet. And back then people had pens. Now they got cell phones. So everybody's writing down all these songs. And so I started playing all this music and everybody's dancing their feet off. And I'm thinking, wow, this really works. Like if you play what they want, not what you like, they will get up and dance, which is what the other guy didn't do. So here we go. A couple years in, I've done all my friends' weddings. I've done weddings for people that I know. They hired me for their company for the Christmas party. And I'm thinking, oh, this is great. And then all of a sudden, I got no business. Why? I got no business card. I've got, well, websites weren't even a thing. I have zero marketing. I had a day job, so I couldn't do it during the day. I was at work. I call it work. So I was at work. So I had to come at night. Well, at night, you can't call corporations. So how do I get Christmas parties? So I started going into bridal shows. Like I didn't have the mechanics to run a business. I didn't have an accountant. So I thought, okay, now I got to add this money to my regular day job. I'm going to be paying more tax than I'm earning. Okay, I got to form a corporation and separate me from it. So in 1984, I discovered a process used for something completely not what I was doing, but I saw the opportunity from an engineering mindset to transform the process into what I now call the Matrix method. And I built a company called Matrix Business Training Workshops to teach the methodology, but it applies to all businesses of all sizes. And I don't care what size global corporation you want to mention, I can punch holes in their business that's costing them money, especially some coffee chains that dump 5% of the drinks down the drain. because of a process error and they don't get it. The problem is the ivory tower doesn't see it because the drinks are so overpriced, they don't see it. They're not seeing the pain. The pain is, I don't have 5 minutes for you to remake my drink when all I asked you to do was take out some of the ice. And they dump the whole drink. So I think, you know what? This process I call the matrix method is absolutely mind-bending in what people will discover. So I am so excited to be here and share this with you and the people watching.
Yes, that was already a great example that you said there's these little inconsistencies in our business. But I want to ask you another question, but I just want to point out what you said a minute ago whenever you're talking about it was so simple. You just ripped up piece of paper, asked them what they wanted to play what they wanted to play. And I think that's such a great metaphor for us and our businesses, period. What do they want? Give it to them. Voila, there's success that happens.
There's a request card from Saturday.
Nice. Oh, yeah. So you still do it. Wait.
I still do. Oh, no, it's a company requirement. You must, here, the thing is, this company policy is you must play requests as long as they're appropriate for language, because we wouldn't play it otherwise. You must play requests, and only if and when you run out of requests do you pick music.
Very nice.
Now, I ran the entire party, and I did not run out of requests. I ran out of time. And that's okay, because they got 100% of what they want without any filler and garbage, or even if it's good music that's complimentary. Why don't you play what they actually want, not similar, right?
Yeah. So
I mean, you can look at someone's shoes and say, "Hey, those are lovely shoes. Can I try them?" You're size 7, they're size 9. It's not the same. You need a size 7 because of that shoe. So it's not close. It's got to be exact. And that's where the matrix dials into the precision of exactness, because it matters. It's so much fun.
Oh my goodness. No, I love this so much. Just like the nugget that you gave us right there. And also the fact that you kept doing it. There are so many times in business where something works. And then because we don't track it, because we don't pay attention, you're just like, okay, great, that worked. Now you continue the next time you do something totally different instead of continuing to do the thing that works over and over again, which I love. So tell us, what's the biggest struggle that you see in small businesses in? Now you're telling us, okay, there's these problems with business. So what would you say is the number one?
Number one, without a doubt, is one word: consistency. The message, method, process, marketing, results, everything. You must be consistent. And as you just said, they do something and then they go and do something and they don't do it the same way. And they don't know, because what gets measured gets done. If you can't measure it, you don't even know that it's done, let alone that it's done well, how well, right? They measure your gas, your electric bill. Otherwise, you're just paying money. You need to know, am I being overcharged? Did I use that much this year? Wow, that's a lot more than whatever. And in business, we have to know these things. So here's an example. Some fast food burger chains offer their burger one way. You go in and you order it and they make it and they give it to you and it's their way. Whether you like it or not, whether you like pickles or not, whatever, it's their way. There's other burger chains where you can say, I want double pickle, lettuce, cheese, no mayo, mustard, like whatever, and you can order it your way. That burger chain charges more money because the person who's doing it takes more time. They actually have to be good enough to deal with the customer directly. That's a different quality of employee and a different pay rate than someone in the back that makes them, puts them on a hot plate. Now, I don't care whether you like the burger or not. The point is the consistency of the one company is why they are the largest global burger chain in the world. And I had a 30-year hiatus of not eating their burgers since I was in high school. And I ordered one of them and it tasted exactly as I remember. And I thought, wow, that is so cool. Whether you like it or not, it's consistent. So that's I think hugely important. So that's kind of my answer on that one.
Excuse me. Yeah, that's so perfect. So whenever we're not consistent, what's the big pain point there? I guess whenever we're not consistent, why does that why does that happen? And what's the result of this inconsistency?
Well, the inconsistency would be that you're not benefiting, first and foremost, you're not benefiting from the success that you just had. You just did it. Why do you want to go off and try and do it a different way when there's no data? Now, I'm not saying don't experiment, but if it worked, then you hone in on it. You don't go off in a completely different direction, because there's a risk that you will spend time and money and find out that, okay, well, that didn't work. Well, yeah, there's no chance it was going to work anyway. So now we get into something we call predictive outcome. And in the matrix, we are actually able to calculate this. And let me switch back to my DJ world. I'm also a wedding planner, and I'm also a wedding officiant. And I can tell a bride the cost of her wedding before she even picks the date.
Wow.
There are 200 line items associated with selecting the right venue alone. Now, if you don't get that right, it's going to cost you 40 to 100% more money than you thought your wedding was going to cost you. Where's this money coming from? Where's the stress? So when we plan a wedding, we call it, are you ready for this, people? No trauma, no drama, no stress, no mess.
Nice. Nice. Well, just looking at that one little example, do I want to hire a wedding planner that knows down to the cent exactly what I'm going to pay for my wedding? And if something comes up and I need to maybe compromise some things, he knows exactly where I can make these compromises, what switches need to happen so that I can have a beautiful, successful wedding that goes off without a hitch? Or do I want to go hire somebody who's playing their own music, doing whatever they want on the backside? So why... We talked about this earlier too, Ron. Why do we, as business owners, why do you think business owner and people in general keep doing it the hard way?
Because you know what? And it's funny, we just got back from ice skating, and I was watching some people skate. And of course, because I've been skating my whole life, I help people, and it's my joy to do that. They've never been taught. Okay. Most businesses start off as a hobby. So let me give you an example. People start off with something that they're good at. You know, you're really good at this. You should do this as a business. Like, oh, okay, cool. And people start off as a hobby. And they don't, so we call that the thing. It's the thing that you're good at.
Mm-hmm.
But they've never had, and neither did I when I started. So I'll admit it, I got scars at, length of my arm. They never got taught all the stuff that it takes to make it into a business. So we call it in the matrix, the stuff and the thing. So very quickly, you end up wearing too many hats, or you have too many roles to fill, too many different tasks to perform, with which you are either undereducated, not informed, don't know how, you're not proficient, I hate making cold calls. I don't like it. So I'm not good at it. I don't want to get good at something I don't like. I don't like broccoli. Sorry, not having it. I don't like cauliflower. So I don't even order meals at a restaurant with seasonal vegetables, because guess what I get? Cauliflower and broccoli. And I'm not paying for a meal that I'm leaving a third of it behind. So they wear too many hats, and they're not good at it. And they're too quick to just struggle, thinking, well, someday I'll figure it out. Well, with what lack of training and struggling, and at what cost and when are you going to figure it out? Which brings up a really cool quote, and I forget whose it is. If not this, then what? And if not now, then when? And you can just put, are you going to get your ducks in a row?
Right.
Right?
Because yeah. Well, I want to dive into that a little bit more. What do you see it is actually costing? Because I know you have a few cool experiences as well in terms of what you've saved people. I don't think, like you said, with this coffee chain, you don't see it, you don't feel it. What is it really costing people not to be consistent, not to have a system, not to be organized, all of these things that you help them do?
Well, again, what gets measured gets done. So take the example, and I have this example. I called a bride one night at 7 o'clock, because I never like to call before 7. They got to get home from work, whatever. So I called the bride at 7 o'clock. Actually, it was 5 after, because It was 5 after. And I got her mom on the phone. Oh, she's out for the evening. Oh, do you know when she'll be back? Well, she's out talking to a DJ. Now, if I'd called at 7 o'clock, I might have been one of the 2 DJs, right? I will never know. I will never know that I lost a wedding because I might have, if I'd called at 7 o'clock or 5:02. So the timeliness, the consistency, what gets measured gets done, all of these efforts that we put into the tasks of the business, you've got to measure the results. And if you don't measure and say, okay, I made 10 phone calls to corporations and I called them at 9 a.m. I wanted to be first. Well, the problem is they're still getting their day wrapped up. They're getting into the day. They're getting their meetings. Like 9 o'clock is a bad time. So is 11:45 because they want to go for lunch. They do not want to be talking about a DJ for a Christmas party in July. So what do? I asked them, well, when do you plan your parties? Well, we start planning in March. Okay, well, next year I'm going to call you in February because when I call in July, I'm already dead in the water. So I have a tracking system for when do they do what they do so I can be in front of the 8 ball, not behind it. So it's all about measuring and acquiring and accumulating data from experience. And the matrix is a digital framework. We'll just throw that in there. It's a spreadsheet. We're not buying software. I hate buying new software that I have to master because if I'm not proficient, I'm actually hurting myself more than I ever know. Back to the ivory tower, doesn't know what's going on in the trenches. So we have specific places like a warehouse. Things go where they go. There's a place for everything and everything goes in its place. The result is massively profound. You see what you know and you see what you don't even know you don't even know. How do you think you know you're out of stock? You go to the warehouse and shelf's empty. So assuming it's where it's supposed to be and we don't have any, we don't have any. The question is, why didn't we know this when we were not quite running out so we could order more of it? Now I got to wait 6 weeks for it to come in, and I got 6 weeks I can't sell something that's in our website or catalog. I don't have product. How did we not know we were running out? Right? And so we need to know whatever our deliverable, whether it's a product or a service or it's a combination, whether it's coaching or counseling, or you make a gizmo, a widget, I don't care if it's bar stools. You need to understand how that whole supply chain works. And it's not just, and you and I, if we offer a service, our supply chain is our time availability. We're trading time for money. So it's not like we have infinite time. And you can't generate business overnight because people have to gear up their calendars to merge. So we are not a commodity-based Amazon ordered. If you and I are offering a service and we have to schedule someone in that wants to start in 3 months, what am I going to do until 3 months before I start making more money? So I think the biggest challenge is we don't have the metrics on the tasks. So for example, it's all fine and well for me to spend a whole day making cold calls. It's my time. What if I get 0 results? I live with it. Tomorrow, I do it again. But would I pay you real money to do that job that ineffectively on my behalf? Where's the money coming from? So I need to get better. You know what I've learned? When I call a company, I want to talk to human resources. Why? Because they're the one that has the corporate culture under the legislation of whether they even host a party. There's a little tick box. So I'm not even talking to the right people. So I learned the language of who am I supposed to ask for. I don't call little companies with 20 employees. They're never going to have the finances to pay for a private DJ to come in if they've got 200 employees and 200 spouses. Now we're talking a 400-person Christmas party. So I start to gather metrics to hone in on the conversation. And it works.
Yeah. So can you dive into that a little bit more? What are think you said there's 4 pillars. There's 4 pillars
Yes.
that we need, every business needs for success. And then how do you kind of use the matrix to dial that in for people? Because right now, I think a lot of us listening are thinking, okay, yeah, this sounds great, but maybe that sounds a little overwhelming. How do I even start to organize something like that?
Yes.
How do I
Perfect.
have time to keep up with it? What is, am I actually going to do it? Those kind of questions. So tell
Yes.
us a
Okay.
little.
So the 4 pillars that you mentioned that I've coined for my matrix is sustainable, trainable, scalable, and saleable. So take the person that has a 9 to 5 job and they quit and they want to do the entrepreneur thing. 9 to 5 turns into 9 to 5, 5 to 9. And, oh, by the way, 7 days a week. That
Yes.
ain't fun.
No.
And it's not sustainable. So if the business is that you're running, you're sure you're watching a hockey game, but you're still sending emails. Would you pay me to send emails at 9 o'clock at night on your behalf? And with what money? So that is not sustainable. Whether you're willing to do it, burn the candle at both ends, it's not sustainable. The second thing is, okay, you're going to hire me now to do some task that you do automatically, don't even think about it, but you have to train me. Have you got a training manual that tells you what you actually do so you're not winging it by memory? Because if you forget to tell me something and I blow a phone call and lose you $100,000 client because, well, you never told me. I didn't know. I just did my best version of your worst version. I mean, that's not good enough. So you need to have a training manual, believe it or not, for your one of a, like just you, solopreneur. In fact, I'm going to pull this out for you. Here is my 30-year-old 1-inch thick binder. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but this is my training manual that I wrote for my company, and it's me, myself, and I incorporated.
Wow.
Why? Because I wanted to know exactly what is it I do? What is it I do? Can I rearrange my process and improve it? Do you know the job of a telemarketer? No, nobody gets this. I guess the goal of telemarketing, you ready? Is to get off the phone as soon as possible with someone who's never going to convert. Why do I want to spend a half an hour convincing you I'm the greatest DJ in the world if you're not even close to my price point or whatever? Or I find out you're in a different city that I don't even service. I mean, you're never going to hire me. So why don't I get to those key questions at the beginning to basically, like a funnel, and we all know about marketing funnels, to narrow down those prospects into more and more probability that they become a client. So I have got processes, and I make it so that therefore I can train someone to do exactly what I need to do, that I have practiced and honed. I just don't want to do it anymore, or I'm too busy. The next one is scalability. And while we may not expect to take over the world, the mindset, which is what Cornelia was talking about last week on these calls, she's so great. The mindset is, if I build the company so that it becomes scalable, then when I sell the company, they can scale it because I built something that has the machinery underneath it to grow. And the last one is saleability. If you cannot sell the business for more than the value of its depreciated assets, imagine, I got $50,000 worth of lighting. Good. Who's going to buy it? What's it worth now? Who am I going to sell it to? Because otherwise my company is just a bunch of used equipment. So if you can't sell the business, it's a hobby. I'm sorry, that's scary.
Ouch.
If
Yeah.
it's not making a profit and it can't be sold, it is a hobby. And the proof? Ask Grandpa how much time he spent and money on his model train set in the basement. And when Grandpa passes away and you have to get rid of it, what's it worth? Not even the value of the little trains and track, let alone the thousands of hours painting little people and scenery. It was a hobby. It was never intended to be a business. Well, we're not in that arena. We are in the arena of business. And if it's not sustainable, trainable, scalable, saleable, it's a hobby. That's profound.
Yeah, that's good because I don't think we think about that, especially a lot of solopreneurs, coaches, speakers. You're just like, oh, I want to go out there and do the thing I love, like you were saying earlier, and then you get it and you're doing it and you're not doing it well, and maybe you're getting money in for, but even I noticed even larger companies that I've talked with and worked with, they don't have the systems in place. They're still running the one-man show. Just think about how people title their businesses. Most coaches title their businesses by their name. Like, I'm
big mistake.
This is Michelle V coaching, or Ron Finlay coaching, or whatever. Okay, what's going to happen once you die? It's gone. So that
you can't sell it. I don't want, see that you're right. Joe's Plumbing, the problem with Joe's Plumbing is I'm not Joe. And Joe wants nothing to do with how I go screw up people's houses. He doesn't want to be, if he sells the business, he does not want the backlash. Okay? And so the other problem on the other extreme is ABC Incorporated. You see their truck on the road, you go, I don't even have a clue what they do, and I'm not going to phone to find out.
Right.
They haven't created, now if they say ABC Incorporated, purveyors of fine meats, or industrial shelving and racking systems, there needs to be a subline if you're going to be so out there with ABC Inc. But Joe's Plumbing cannot be sold. Judy's Wedding Boutique cannot be sold, because as soon as you change it to Arlene's Wedding Boutique, all that history, reputation, it's gone. Mm-hmm. Because now it's like, oh, it's a new place. No, it's the old place. I don't know this. And I'm not curious enough to find out. And the marketing cost of starting over is massive.
Yes.
So that's a huge mistake. And so in the Matrix, just because we do it, we have a whole series of columns related to the scripting, the language, that we call it the communications module. So that when you come up with a name of your company, if you don't acid test it against sustainable, trainable, scalable, saleable, and it will fail one of those pillars, you are not pouring concrete on top of this thing. You are wasting your time and money, and you will run into a brick wall. And the cost could be that it costs you everything you've ever done. It just stops. A friend of mine has an HVAC company for 50 years. He has 3 daughters. They're all grown up. I did Jennifer's wedding. They want nothing to do with it. So I said to Steve, what are you going to do when you stop? Because all I see is a truck full of pipe and fittings and wrenches. And nobody wants to buy it. Because either they have their own plumbing business, or they don't have the business savvy to want to run a company. So he's just going to stop. And it's his dad's company. So there's a 2-generation legacy that's simply going to come to a crashing halt.
Which is so unfortunate. Well, it is so unfortunate because they do have a lot of the processes. There is a lot of things that they've already learned. There's a lot of things that are working and some things that aren't working, and then it's just going to die. And it's so unfortunate.
Well, that's the thing, right? And the sad part of that, just give me 1 second here. The sad part of that is that if people truly believe, and this is really the entrepreneurial dream, okay, we can get real philosophical here. If you truly believe that what you do is of value to the planet, that you serve people from the right place and like all of that warm and fuzzy, then I will stand on my ivory tower and say this to you. How dare you deprive the world of what you do? How dare you take away from us this thing that you've created? And if you can't sell it and it just stops, what have you done? You've just taken away the penicillin of life, right? You've just taken away the magic medicine or whatever it is that you do. You've taken away your website development, your creative, your content, whatever it is you do. You just took it away from the world. How dare you? And I mean in the nicest way, how dare you? So that is the driving force behind what are you going to do when it's over? Which, by the way, is the second question a business owner has to ask themselves. I want to start a business doing whatever. What am I going to do when I stop? And if you don't answer that question before you even start, which is why I tell brides the cost of the wedding before they even pick the date. If you do not know how it's going to end, why are you getting on the ship if it says on the side of it the name of the ship and it starts with a T?
Yes, exactly. If we know what it is, yes, 100%. Well, I know you do workshops. I want to get into the workshops
okay.
because But before we get into that, what I'm really hearing from our conversation is just how much we're missing out in our business by not having something like this. That I'm throwing away my 5% revenue on my coffee. I'm, really inefficient. I'm going to build this thing up for years. I mean, I think if you tell anyone that, okay, you're going to build this up, I'm going to give you a vision of the future. You're going to build this up. You're going to get it running. You're going to figure it out. You're going to start making $1 million years and $2 million years. And you're going to be this amazing speaker and you're going to do all this. And then it's all going to die.
Yeah.
Because you didn't plan ahead. Ouch. Why do I want to keep going? This sounds like something that everybody needs to have this in place. So before we go into the workshops and how you can do that, I want to put you on the spot here and just give us a list of reasons. What are the top reasons that you see why they need to have this? And maybe if you can give us some specific examples too of what you've seen in terms of how it's helped their business, how you've put revenue back in, or you've seen revenue coming out, or some of those examples as well.
Okay. So there's a guy, you might have heard of him. His name is Henry Ford.
Mm-hmm.
I know you can still buy their vehicle. He died in 1947. How is it the company still continues? And it's one of the big three in North America.
Yeah.
Because he built a corporation that surpasses his own existence on the planet. Right? So that's the first thing. It was built on purpose, that it does not rely on him to build cars. So as a business owner, and the reason for all these hats that we wear, my wife, when she was in business, she tallied up one day, she has 65 hats.
Wow.
65 different tasks that have to get done to run the business. So if you're the owner, that means you have at least 64 employees before you even start the business. Do you know enough to even hire them? Now, listen, I'm not perfect. I just hired a guy before Christmas to change our water heater. And then I find out he's not a plumber, and it's a disaster because I didn't have the experience to vet him. I listened to his dog and pony story. He came here and ruined everything. It's all got to get redone. And it cost me a fortune. So we make mistakes. The question is, did we learn something? Right? So we need to understand all the hats, use what we already know about those different jobs. And when you don't know enough about the job, you are in no way ready to hire someone and trust that they say they can do, because you're going to pay them whether they can or they can't. And speaking of Henry Ford, one of his most famous quotes is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. And in business, we can't afford to be the wrong kind of right. So that's a problem when you don't have the business structure. So where does that come from? In the matrix, we lay out the structure, almost like an org chart in a company. But it's just that it's just you or me. It's one person, but the departmental layout, that hierarchy, the job tasks, the time it takes to do the job. How much time do you allocate for bookkeeping, for phoning, for follow-ups? For how long is a meeting? How long does an interview go? I've sat with brides for 2 or 3 hours because it takes that long to show them how magical their wedding could be. Once they know what is possible, can they afford to settle for what is typical? I had a bride at her wedding, and I told her in my one of my other famous things I rattle is, I want what I want, and I don't want what I don't want. And you got to put a real American accent on that because it's funny. At her wedding, at her gross, and I didn't plan her wedding, she did. Her wedding went $50,000 over budget. Over. It was already at 70 and it went to 120. Sit down. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sitting. Yeah, that's terrible.
She said at her wedding, this is the wedding I wanted, and I want what I want, and I don't want what I don't want. And I thought, go girl.
I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to pay.
So you know what? She appreciated that she wants what she wants. It cost her more money than she thought, but she didn't want what she didn't want, because that memory lasts forever. And you know what? Money aside, I give her credit for having the courage to push through. It was a fabulous wedding. I know I was the DJ and the officiant. So it was fabulous. She did an incredible job. It was just way more expensive because
Right.
she made some mistakes that if I was helping her sooner, she would have not been allowed to make because I would have guided her.
Which I think I'm going to cut you off here, but
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest reasons we don't hire people is because we're like, oh, well, I don't have the money. I can't afford to hire this person. But just hearing all of those examples, you can't afford not to hire someone because of that's a perfect example. The one thing that they could save you this one mistake that's going to save you thousands of dollars, or they could teach you this one thing that's going to make you thousands of dollars.
That's right.
Or they could teach you this one thing that's going to save you years of trying to figure it out on your own, where you could have been making $10,000, $30,000 per month, but now you're not because you're sitting around spinning your wheels trying to figure it out on your own.
That's right. And, you know, respectfully, here's the thing. At no point do I profess to be perfect. I mean, that's my wife is, but I'm not. The thing is, if you don't know, you don't know. Get over it. Just admit you don't know. But then the question is, well, how do I do this? And the answer is the matrix lays out the framework that we build with the spreadsheet. It lays out information by content. What do you know? What don't you know? It's missing. The cell's empty. But what's the secret sauce, and not so much secret sauce, the magic. I've invented something I call parametric coding. And I want to do an example with you, if you don't mind. We do it real quick.
Absolutely.
Everybody listening has gone grocery shopping. On our fridge, we have a sheet of paper. And the rule of the household is if we run out of something, write it down, because I don't want to have to go back to the store to pick up one stupid thing. So write it down. So here's what we did. And if your viewers want to write this down, I ran out of eggs, ran out of bread, ran out of cereal, ran out of milk. No, let's take cereal off the list. I ran out of eggs, bread. Let's make it simple. Eggs, bread, and milk. So the kids can't have cereal in the morning if we don't have milk. So the trigger, that's the key word, the trigger to go to the grocery store is we ran out of milk. If we ran out of bread, we'd manage. If we ran out of eggs, we'd manage. But when we run out of milk, now the cereal doesn't get, now I got to come up with a new breakfast thing. So the trigger is the milk. Now, when I go, the other one, sorry, I ran out of ice cream. Gosh, right?
Yeah, that's a trigger one. I can't.
Well, for some people, that's the trigger. So we
right.
get to the grocery store, and amazingly, I don't know why they did it this way, but they do. They did not lay out the store in the order that my list is. Funny that. So I have to go around the store in a different order than my list. So let's reverse engineer this. What is the last thing that goes into my shopping cart? Ice cream, bread, eggs, milk. The last thing.
Ice cream for sure.
So earlier I said you have to think about how you're going to sell the business before you start the business. So we're talking about going to the end and working backwards. Ice cream. Why? This is the key word. Why is the ice cream going in last? Considering I'm right next to the frozen food section because that's the door I came in. Why can't I just get the ice cream now? Because it's going to melt.
No.
So I get things in the reverse order of melting. The bread can be first. It's sitting there anyway, right? The milk is refrigerated. The eggs are refrigerated. The ice cream is frozen. So what's driving the order? We said, it's going to melt. That's not the right word. We want to think of a level of science, and there's 13 of these, by the way. 13 levels of science that impact on the planet. Gravity, air, water, humidity, sunlight, like all of this stuff. So magnetics, I get into all this in the matrix because the thing that's driving the order of shopping is temperature. If the whole store was frozen, if the grocery store was inside a hockey rink, hell, no matter. I might even eat it on the way out the door. But because it's room temperature, the ice cream will melt. So temperature is the driving parameter. It's a parameter. And we use parametric coding to classify all of the activity in the business. Everything you do can be classified with a describing word that's in a column, and there's 3 columns of these. So there's sub parameters and sub parameters, and there's a risk assessment tool that we use that I borrowed from the automotive industry, so I didn't invent it, that lets us prioritize what needs to get done in what order. And what's driving it? Time, money, and risk. And you mentioned this. You could have done it, but you didn't. And for years, you've been losing money. So you've put your business at risk, not making the money you should have made if you knew this sooner. And I'm going to ask, I'm just going to pose the question. What is the most valuable thing in the world? And we have a little triangle we do on the screen when we do this workshop. The most valuable thing in the world is time. It's not money. It's not oil. It's time. But most people answer the next question wrong. I ask them why. Oh, well, you only got so much. You can't make it back. That's not the answer. The answer is you don't know how much you have left. That's profound.
Yeah, that's good.
That's really different.
I think I have a 30-year runway for my business. I'm going to treat it differently than if I think I got to make it now.
Yeah. I mean, if you found out you have a life-ending disease in 3 months, you are not going to work tomorrow. The hell with it. I'm going on vacation. I'm doing everything that I only got 3 months to live. My whole plan just changed. Mm-hmm. So time is the most valuable. Risk and money form the other 2 corners of or vertices of a triangle. We call it the triad of decision making. And you only get 2 out of 3. So you decide to sleep in and spend more time sleeping. Now you're late for work, so you drive faster, which means you're at a higher risk of an accident, which if you hit somebody is going to cost you a fortune. So you only get 2 out of 3. So we have a business assessment column that says, so which is it? And when you start to look at the activity of the day, is it really important that at 9 o'clock you start hitting the phones? They're not even ready at work to receive your call. Is there a better timing? And you evolve over time and you measure and you fine tune and hone your business. Who does this?
Nobody.
Entrepreneurs are what I call wing the thing. They're winging it. So the struggle is, can we have a different approach? Can we at least try it? What if it works? What if it works better than the way you've been doing it? You could move the needle so far, you break it right off the dial. And what do you learn about your business that you didn't even know that you didn't even know? And here's an example. I wonder how many people watching can tell me to the penny inside of 5 seconds, how much have you made? How much have you spent? How much taxes have you collected? We in Canada collect HST on behalf of the government. We remit it. It's like a sales tax. How much have you brought in tax? How much do you owe in tax? What's the differential? To the penny. To the penny. I can tell you as of now, and it's 2 o'clock Toronto time, I can tell you to the penny exactly what I'm at financially in my business today. Yeah. As of right now.
Nobody. I mean, I know one other person that can, and he's my coach, and he asked me that same question. And I was like, I have no idea. Right? There's very, very few people that do. And I don't think that, I'm not sure if he does all those other things. How many people really have all those other things mapped out? And I was having a conversation with him one time, actually, where he was saying people will pay Frank Kern hundreds of thousands of dollars to have one consult call with them. In the consult call, you know what he does? Looks at the business, what worked. Okay, go do more of that, right? Like that's all that he does in his consults is, okay, go do more of that. And then they'll come back and pay him more money because he was so brilliant. But the thing is, what you're offering is not just, hey, go do more of that, but hey, here's a framework where you can see, yes, what do I even need to do more of? What do I need to do less of? What's not really working? Where's my time getting wasted? Where's my money going? What, let me have these pieces in place that are really clear. So I know now that I know what's working for me, now I can bring someone in and I can train them. So I have my time back and I know how much money I can pay them because I know how much money those tasks are worth. And it's
That's
just
right.
priceless to me. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And the thing is, it's not just what is working or go do what's working. I still have all the other stuff that has to get done. And if I don't know what it costs or what it takes, and I'll tell you a real quick story. I was a keynote speaker at a DJ conference in 1998. And my topic was pricing your DJ service. So I asked the room, I don't care what you charge. I just need a number for the purposes of the presentation. And the number that came back was $400 for a 4-hour party. So it's $100 an hour. Now, most of them have day jobs making $10 to $15 an hour back then. So $400 in one night is more than they make in a week. So it sounds like a lot of money. And then I got on the whiteboard and I started listing off all the places where it costs money. How did you get the booking? We did a bridal show. How many leads did you get? Da 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 da. You know, where did you buy your music? What did you got for insurance for your equipment? And da 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 da. When we got done, and I want you to throw a number out and put you on the spot now, Michelle, the $100 an hour, after we factored in all the costs of running the business, what do you think that $100 an hour reduced to when we subtracted the costs of making the money? Take a guess.
$5 an hour. I thought it was ridiculous.
No, not 5, 68.
Really?
68 cents.
Oh, I was like, that's high. Oh, 68 cents. You know, I started a popcorn business with my neighbor not too long ago for my kids because my mom had a popcorn machine and we're like, oh, this will be so great to teach the kids, blah, blah, blah. A couple months into it, I did the math like that. I mean, I had been doing the math, but I was like, this is not worth it. I'm paying myself like $2 an hour. I'm not doing
I told them I can go through the drive-through at the donut shop without my car, picking up dimes and quarters and make more than you are.
Yeah.
The room was stunned, silent, and a year later at the next conference, they came up to me and said, we've tripled our price thanks to your seminar. I said, good, you need to double that because you're still not making any money. And they're still like, but how are we going to get people to pay us that much? I said, you just have to be better at presenting what you do. And as a comparative, just so you know, most DJs offer 8 what we call highlights at a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Grand entrance, first dance, father, daughter dance, groom and mother, bouquet garter, cake cutting, and last dance. Those are what make a wedding, and you don't do them at a Christmas party because it's weird. I have over 38 highlights.
Wow.
And people say, wow, thank you for maintaining my statistics. I call it a wow wedding because people say wow. So when you can offer so much more, why do you think they pay me? Because they get what no one else can offer them. And all of it was built on the matrix. So I build the process of taking what you know into a framework without having to buy software so you can see what you don't know. So you can assess and figure out, well, what do I need to do? Because this is costing me money. I can't charge more because they won't pay me. That's what you're worth. You're worth what someone pays you. If one DJ is 500 and one DJ is 5,000, they're not the same DJ. Neither is the bride. Let's be fair. Not everybody drives a Rolls Royce. My Lamborghini's in the shop today. But the point is, not everybody drives an exotic car, mostly because they can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the point. Like you said at the beginning of our conversation, what if I could rearrange the money and have more of what matters more and less of the fluffy stuff? Well, in business, now that we're paying for the whole thing, what if I had more of my money focused on marketing instead of something else? Because marketing will bring me money into the future, and this other activity, honestly, I don't need that as badly, and it becomes priorities. And that's where these 3 columns that assess risk, it's called risk priority number. The RPN tells you need to do this more importantly than get that done.
Yeah, so good.
Because it's going to change, and it all comes down to dollars. I'm sorry, it's business. It comes down to the dollar cost value or just plain the dollar cost of not doing.
Well, because really we're building a machine. I talk about one of the pillars of my business is the machine of the business. If the machine of the business isn't running smoothly, you don't have a business, it falls apart, which is why I love what you do. And I know this week you have a workshop coming up where you're going to dive into this with us a little bit more and get your hands on some practical application going. So this is the full link. I got it in the description as well, but Ron's workshop is this week on Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. You can sign up here and you're going to be doing amazing things. And then I know you also do 2-day workshops, full workshops where people just come in, they get their hands dirty, they're able to map out this whole thing for their business so that they can keep rolling. And honestly, going off of what we talked about here today, the price is minuscule compared to what this is going to do for their business, how this is going to set up and save them so much time and energy this year, how this is going to make their business so much more efficient. It is fantastic. So reach out to Ron if you want to know more about his 2-day workshops. If you want to come to his workshop on Wednesday, you can sign up with us here, and then you get 3 other workshops as well, including the mindset one that was last week. You get that replay available to you right now if you sign up right now. And then I'm jumping on for a workshop next week, and then we've got Amanda for a workshop the next week. But this is really to help you thrive in 2025. And I believe this workshop is one of those key pieces, because I don't care how great you are, what amazing message you have, you're going to run out of money, you're going to run out of time, you're going to run out of resources. If you don't have things organized, the business isn't going to be able to keep going, which is the fortunate and unfortunate part of what we do. It's not a hobby. So.
That's right. And that's why I called my DJ business Perpetual Rhythms.
Ooh, nice.
So there was a lot of thinking. And again, I can sell it because it's not Ron Finlay DJ Company. I mean, there's so much, this is the funnest part. The more you dig into it, the more you see what you have been doing without even realizing it, which means you could have trained someone, but you did it so automatically. It's like ice skating. You do it. You don't even, how do you teach someone to tie a shoelace over the phone? You ever tried that? That's really difficult, by the way. You do it without even thinking, you're not even looking, your hands are going, you tied the shoelace. How would you explain over the phone to someone? Then as Einstein said, if you can't explain it in simple terms, you don't understand it well enough yet. And that's not insulting, that's inspiring to say, do I really, really know what I'm doing well enough to explain it to someone else who has no clue, so much so that they could do it for me at a level of proficiency that I'm willing to pay them, and I make money on that money because they're going to bring me more business than they're costing me. Otherwise, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I want to close this down, but I just think this is so beautiful because it answers so many questions. When should I hire someone? Who should I hire first? How much should I pay them? Yeah, and where is my money going? Where is it coming from? What can I leverage to make more money in my business? What can I leverage to make more time in my business? And there's just on and on and on, all of the questions that you are maybe confused about or overwhelmed by right now are just all in this system. So come to the workshop, get more of Ron. You need him in your business. I just love him so much. Thank you so much for coming, Ron. Any quick last words for everyone today?
Yes, just to say thank you to you for hosting this. I really appreciate it. And, Michelle's trying to help the world with her community building inspiration. You need people to believe in what you do. And she believes in it so much that that's her forte. And I am so pleased to have met you and be a part of your community to reach out to business owners to help them. Because, in the last several years, self-employment has become a real thing. Government support into our retirement is becoming a really questionable thing. Entrepreneurialism has never been higher in the history of business. Side hustle is now becoming mainstream. Very few people have one job. I mean, the writing is on the wall. It's been chiseled in. It's not writing, it's chiseled. This is what we need to be thinking about. And struggling without training, to me, it's why. There are people who are here to help. Let us help you. That's the message. I've done something. I think it can help. You do something. There's no question it will help. Let us help you.
So
Please.
good. So good. I love it so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Alrighty.